Hello, everyone. This is a video about how to time your code in C++. This will show you how to accurately measure the performance of your C++ code and the pros versus cons of different ways of measuring your C++ performance. In order to measure performance, you have to understand what exactly you're measuring. So time in this case is not a date. It's not a specific calendar day or anything like that. It's an interval, meaning so the actual date on a calendar is not important, but the amount of time between, let's say, point A and point B is what we're looking for, and that's what we will call an interval. The old way of measuring performance is actually not even in C++. Before C++11, you only really had the C level functions to measure time and performance. So the only way to do that was through the time header in the standard library. So you can see here where we use the clock function, the time function, and basically we are just taking two clocks. We're subtracting the difference, and then we're dividing it by a constant, which is a special constant that tells us the amount of CPU cycles or clocks per second. It's a kind of a primitive way to measure performance, but it is what it is for the time being before C++11 came around. This older method of timing and performance testing does have some drawbacks. First of all, it is not really consistent cross-platform, meaning if you were to write such a program and run it on Mac or then on Windows and on Linux, you would not necessarily get consistent results. That's because the standard for the ISO-C language, or the standard that drives compilers, is not specific on exactly how these clocks and how these functions need to be defined and the guarantees they need to make. The other problems with this older approach is that it's not always precise. So that means that the type of time, whether it's monotonic or it's just a regular calendar clock, is not guaranteed. So it existed, it was there for when it needed to be, but it's not a reliable method going forward. And next I'm going to show you what the modern way to measure your code in C++ is. The new modern way of measuring and timing code in C++11 or a newer compiler is to use the chrono header. So the chrono header provides three different clocks to measure your time with. The one that's most relevant for performance, where you don't really care about the date or the calendar representation of the time, is called steady clock. So what steady clock is it's a monotonic clock that is perfect for intervals. It's saying you have a time A, time B, or time C, or however many times you want, and you can just measure how long the time is between those points. And so in our code example here, we have time A, time B. We subtract them in a duration object. So what a duration object is a way to represent the interval in a unit. So if you think about, there's seconds, milliseconds, nanoseconds, whatever unit you want. And then there's also a C++ type that you want to pick. Basically, the only two are floating points and integers. In this example, I pick a floating point. There's other ways to do it with integers. And yeah, you just count the duration, and there you have it. It's your new way to measure performance in C++11. So compared with the previous approach I showed you, the prior to C++11 approach, this approach is much more modern. It works cross-platform. It is guaranteed to be monotonic. The time will never go backwards. it's not sensitive to changes in the system clock. It's really good for high precision performance testing in this case. And yeah, I really recommend going it with this way over any other way. It's very easy. You don't need any third-party libraries at all. That's about it for today. Hope you enjoyed this video. I'll be making a lot more on performance and how do you properly measure performance, and examining and studying the different performance aspects of common C++ features, and also for the C language as well.